Good morning. Thank you for joining me for today's live. My name is Tracy Held. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne in Australia, and this is my regular Sunday morning stamping session. This is the card that we're going to make today. Now, I was speaking to my friend and fellow Australian demonstrator Tina Pillay yesterday, and she showed me some cards that she had made. Now, I'm going to pull a picture and I hope that it's going to show on camera because I really want you to see her card, so I'll try not to get too much light off the screen. So that was Tina's card, and she was using the Yetis, and she's got the Yeti die, so remember that's with the Perfect Partners. That's on special for this month. And of course when I saw that, I also want to make that. I don't know about anybody else, but we have a thing in our house where it's a bit of a FOMO, fear of missing out. So it normally is when somebody's eating something nice, and as soon as you go, what are you eating? And it's, I also want. So I also had to make Tina's card. But of course I had to complicate the issue a bit because I didn't want the color directly against the color, so I had to put a white matte in. Now, I'm sure that you've all done this or seen this before. It's where we're going to cut the DSP into 4 pieces. And having said that, let me just grab my cutter. Now, like I said, have to complicate things, so I will tell you what not to do. But usually you're taking a 6 by 6 inch piece, marking up 1.5 inches, which would be 4 centimeters up either side, and then cutting from those marks. So I had to adjust that. So before we start cutting, let's look at what we are using today. So, cup of tea stamp set, and I'm using the teacup dies. Those are the ones that are left in there because I've used the cup and the frilly bit that goes with it. Going back to my stylish shapes, this is the 3rd smallest circle, and we've got the Tea Boutique DSP. Now, please listen to me. Don't do what I do. Make it really complicated. You want to use DSP that is non-directional. Okay, that is a not negotiable. It has to be non-directional because otherwise it just causes you absolute havoc. And I will show you what I mean. So we can use the lemons. Don't use that. Don't use the teacups. Don't use those flowers. These flowers are good. That was that one. Okay, this one here is probably my favorite DSP in this pack, but it's not going to work for this card. And then we've got those teapots. You can see I've been scratching through this DSP. Everything's every which way. And those teapots. Okay, now let me just explain to you about the directionality. I have an old piece of DSP because this was driving me insane that I've cut. So if we're going to put it together, okay, and this is a 6 by 6. Now if I'm laying it on my card, when I'm putting it down, that way it's too long. So trying to get which way it has to go. Okay, so it should somehow fit in. Okay, I told you this card was driving me nuts. But, alright, this has to work. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that will fit on your standard card base, but you can see that when you're turning it, you're turning your hearts. So you may get one that's actually working the right way up. The others are all going to be sideways on or the other way around. So make sure, do yourself a favor, do not go with anything that has any kind of direction. Right, now because we wanted it on that mat, I've cut my DSP down slightly. So this is now 14 centimeters square, or you would cut it to 5.5 inches. And then you're going to mark it at 4.4 centimeters or 1 3/4 inches. And just make sure that you can see your mark. And you're marking that point on all 4 sides. So you've probably seen this before, but a lot of the times you're just using one quadrant on the card, which will still look nice, we'll show you, but Tina said she wanted to use 2. And of course the good thing about it is that you then get 2 card fronts out of one piece of the 6x6 inch DSP. Now I'm so busy talking. So I'm cutting from my one mark to the mark on the opposite side. Hold that together, and then we're doing the same on that side. Okay, so that's probably the most difficult part, is just making sure that you're keeping it together while you're cutting it. And you're then landing up with 4 identical pieces. Right, so that's really easy. And I decided that I didn't want, because this DSP has a white background, I didn't want it against a white mat. So I'm going to do my card in saffron. And we're going to go with a granny apple green mat. Just for something a little bit different. It looks like one of my pieces. Now, when I do these, I make 2 cards together, because to me that's, you're getting one effort, 2 cards. What more could you ask for? Well, to start off, we're going to stick our designer series paper onto the card front. I'm only going to do one now because you clearly don't want to watch me do the same thing twice. It's like instant replays. But as soon as I'm done, I will go and make up the second card. Now, although it seems strange, I find that green and yellow is a really good color combination. And the other one that works really well together is blue and yellow as well. So if you haven't tried those, give them a shot. Alright, so using this like this, it gives you your nice little strip in the middle there, and that's where Tina had actually stamped her sentiment, but I'm not going to stamp my sentiment here. And we're going to stick that onto the front of the card. There we go. Then I've cut out my dies, and for the frilly bits I've done my usual and put adhesive sheet behind it. For me it is just so much easier, because then you don't get glue everywhere. But if you don't like using the adhesive sheet, feel free to try and stick with your Tombow glue. Now, I was always using these frilly bits in a different color with my cup, and clearly I've got adhesive sheet on this piece which has shifted, but I saw that one of the ladies that I do my tutorial bundle with, Lorraine Tierney, had done it in the same color, and I just loved the look of that. It just gave it a bit of a soft look and everything blended together. So I've been using the same color and I like the effect of it. Obviously, if you wanted to do it a different color, you could do white on top, or if you wanted it a bit more elegant, you could maybe do gold, but I'm using the same color and it just gives it that pretty little finished look. Right. I have to say, Annette, that green's not my favorite color. It's not my go-to color. I use it a fair bit because some of the ladies that come to my card classes like green, but ordinarily it wouldn't be what I've chosen, but it worked really well with this DSP. The only thing with sticky strip is that it sticks to your fingers. When I say sticky strip, I did mean adhesive sheet, and you get these tiny little sticky things sticking all over the floor, but it makes it much easier when you're applying to your paper. And yeah, I didn't want to go the dark green, so that was why we went granny apple green. And yeah, I think that I'm happy with the color combination. Wouldn't have thought about it if it wasn't for the paper. So sometimes it's really good to get inspiration from your paper. Okay, now my husband tells me that I love the topsy-turvy cups, and my argument is that unless you've got cups that are completely flat and the base is the same size as the top, they're always going to sit a bit crooked, and yeah, it's boring if it's straight. Put that on there, and a few dimensionals on the back of this one. There are cups. Now, the good thing about cutting down the DSP is that you've got a couple of little strips left over. So I've cut them to size. The one will go 14.4 centimeters, which would be your 5¼ inches. And that one can go down to 10 centimeters. So we've got one strip that can go along the side of the card, and the other one can go along the bottom. So we've decorated our inside on both cards now. Like I said, this DSP is good because it's non-directional, so it doesn't really matter which side goes up, but for whatever reason I felt that I had to turn it over. Pop that on the inside. And then we normally do our stamping first, but today I was so excited to get onto cutting the DSP, we didn't do the stamping, so we're going to do our stamping now. And I have so many little leftover bits of graph paper because I have been cutting up all my used grid paper just to try and get the dimensions right for cutting this, that it fitted on the mat. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my thank you in the granny apple green. And I'm stamping this towards the top of my circle, at the good thing about circles is that if you don't get it straight, you can turn it and it then will be straight. Okay, and then, so saffron, I'm taking this leaf, and I want the leaf, it's going to go over the sentiment, so I want it a bit lighter, so we're going to stamp that off and then stamp it over. And I'm taking my flowers, and these are just going full strength stamping straight on. Now the trick here, you can see that I'm getting it a little bit lighter. I'm just not putting as much pressure, so if you put a little bit less pressure when you stamp, then you will get that lighter stamping. So that's one way of regulating how dark your stamping comes out without you actually stamping off. And I'm going to stick this flat. It's going to go on there. And of course we have to have some bling, so I've got some of my rhinestones, and we'll just pop those on to the bottom of my flowers. And if you were doing the two together, you would have 2 finished cards ready to go. Now I'll just show you the card that I did yesterday, which was doing my head in, and because the paper was directional. Okay, so let's just move those out. So the first thing was that I had to cut these down because they weren't fitting. And that's because, like I said to you with the others, when you're turning it, you're actually having them side on. So I had to turn it, let's say, the wrong way to get my teapots facing up. And then this was the reverse side of the paper. So because I was using the reverse side, my cuts were going in the opposite direction. So ideally, if you want to use the front side and the reverse side of a paper, you would need to cut twice or have 2 pieces of paper. And then, yeah, Tina said to me, but that looks different to mine. And it was because I didn't have that sort of line going up the middle because I was twisting the paper around. Okay, so it just gave me a real headache. Don't do that. Just use something that's not directional. And of course, the next thing that I wanted to do was go and cut into a piece of 12 by 12 DSP, which sure, you can do that, no problem. But the whole thing behind this was, this is a good way to use up your 6 by 6 DSP, and it gives you maximum use of the paper with very little wastage. So either you're using the whole piece if you're not putting a mat, or if you're using a mat, you're cutting it down, but you've got those strips that you're going to use to decorate the inside. So used up my DSP, got 2 cards out of it, and I'm really happy. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to Tina and to Lorraine for the inspiration for today. I couldn't have made these cards without both of you. Have a good week, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Bye.